from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning. I just got an urgent text. It looks like it's just going to be you and me today.
Yes, I got the exact same urgent text, and it was one of those where I just turned on my phone, so I heard it buzz, and I'm thinking, okay, which staff member is calling out sick today? And we have a big luncheon. We have our spring fling luncheon today.
All right,
and
so that's not a problem.
No, that's not a problem. And I look down, and I see it's from Joe Rouse, and I'm thinking, oh, no. But you know what, Pete? We've done it before. We'll do it again.
I'm sure we can fill 2 hours, no problem.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. Joe and I had an interesting topic that we were going to be covering, and he's kind of covered this before to a certain extent, so I'm going to dig back in my memory and remember what we had talked about before, but we'll save that for the second hour. And, you know, we have lots of stuff to go through here, so we'll
it's
manage.
It's getting to be the busy season around here.
It is getting to be the busy season, so we have a lot to cover. We're going to, we'll give some updates on what's going on at the Senior Center. We'll talk about the construction project, which you have now seen.
Yes,
so, one of the very few outside of the, the inner circle have actually been, and mostly because it is a hard hat area. So when the guys are working there, nobody can come. You happen to come on an afternoon when
they were done early, right?
Actually, they weren't there that day because now we're at this point where the guys from Cornerstone can't come back until the fire guys come, but the fire guys couldn't make it till today. So things will start popping again today. But you happen to hit it at a sort of, there was a little lull in the action.
Hey, the other thing I noticed on Franklin Street, the Franklin Avenue School project is moving ahead quickly.
It is finally? Really?
You didn't drive by that? Oh, you come in the other way.
I
That's
come in
right.
the other way. I very rarely
when you leave, go by because now the
Okay.
whole, you can see the Franklin Avenue School clear as bell.
No way.
From the street. All of the site has been prepared. It looks like they're getting ready to take down the library building.
Wow.
Because they're going to need to do that first to get to have that whole area prepared. That's moving forward rather quickly. So that's a project that's on the move.
Oh, my goodness. I know. And that was one of the, it was like the Senior Center. They've talked about it forever. And you just thought, this is never going to happen.
It has its fits and starts.
Yeah.
It's kind of like birthing a baby.
Yeah. But, hopefully it'll happen the way the Senior Center did, which is once we got the project started.
Yeah, this one's going, yeah.
And it just moved. It was probably one of the few projects of that magnitude that I know of where they actually finished ahead of schedule. When Forrest did the construction, we actually were not quite ready because, you're trying to sort of plan the moving, and Tammy Teff, the city purchaser, and I were working on, we had to get everything moved over and files and, all that stuff. And they finished like almost a month ahead of schedule, and we were, sort of shocked by that. But yeah, so sometimes, and I think I can't remember. Oh my gosh, it's really going to drive me crazy. The name of the construction company that's doing that project, because they're out of either Longmeadow or East Longmeadow. They've done a lot of the schools, a lot of big projects here.
It looks like they know what they're doing because they progressed.
Absolutely,
the houses came down and got mitigated, and then the site clearing was only really a couple days. I mean, they're grinding the last of the stumps now, I think.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a flat surface fairly quickly.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
And then I noticed that in the span of the last 2 days, now there's tarps up over the windows of the building, so they must be doing abatement in that outbuilding. So so they're moving fast.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. I'll have to look up and see the name because I can't remember the name of the construction company. But yeah, they have done a lot of schools and big projects in this area. So it's like Forest, well schooled with the area. They know, no pun intended, but they know what they're doing. So I expect this project to just be, going right steady.
And then right after you on Rock on Westfield this morning, we interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Steven Stiegel Mindek, who is one of the pilots, but he's also the air show director.
Oh, that is, what
we're talking the new planes and the air show at 8:00.
Yeah, which is really going to be fascinating. We were commenting, and Mary Lou and Barbara Martone are volunteer extraordinaire with us out there every day at lunch and fitness signups and brown bag and every other darn thing we do in the parking lot. We were talking about the fact that lately we have noticed there are a few planes, and we don't know the brand, we don't know what type they are, but they're really quiet, and they, all of a sudden they appear. And, we're used to the jets that are really loud and you can hear them coming and, we're waving and we're looking up and so forth. We're like little kids when
that could be some of the new Gulfstreams that are up there.
I don't know what they are, but they look like the others. They're sleek and streamlined, but they're really quiet. And all of a sudden they're there and we're going, whoa,
I know some F-35s visited last week, so it could be that.
Okay. Yeah,
but the F-35s, when they take off, they're going to be a little loud.
Yeah. Well,
but hey, that extends the life of the base by decades. So
yes, it absolutely does. And of course, I don't live near the airport or anything, but we are just at lunchtime. We are like little kids. And today we have our spring fling at the senior center. So for those of you who if you signed up, because it was all advanced registration today, and we're doing a big one. It's like we got 150 of you folks coming through.
Yeah.
So it's a biggie. So if you signed up, you don't have to call this morning. I mean, and a lot of people were checking all this week. Now I don't have to call, right? Because I'm already signed up. Yes, you don't have to call this morning. Please don't call this morning because we don't have anybody really answering the phones on a special lunch day for meals because you've pre-registered. And unfortunately, if you did not sign up, it's too late. We actually went through the whole list.
It's sold out.
Yeah, it's sold out like a week and a half ago. We were able to sneak in a few people that we had on the waiting list at the last minute and had a couple of last minute cancellations, which typically happens. People get sick and things like that. But anyway, that will be this afternoon. And interestingly, Pete, we were talking about the planes and so forth. Interestingly, very often when we're doing a special luncheon, we also get an air show at the same time, and it's so fun. It just adds to the festivities.
Well, I know Stiegel, we had to push off his interview because he was sitting alert yesterday, which means if the horn goes off, the interview's over.
Okay, all right.
But he said that they scrambled. They did a scramble drill around 11:30 yesterday.
Okay.
And he just got back about 20 minutes before we started taping.
Wow.
He's like, I apologize before we started taping. He goes, apologize, I'm still in my flight suit, but we just got off off the plane.
That makes it so much more authentic.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean,
no.
We're not. We're not. We don't stand on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're not worried about that. So.
No. But
it was a great interview.
Just for the viewing audience,
right.
It provides the look, So,
right. Great interview and a lot of information and.
Good.
We'll be doing our broadcasting again up there from starting at 7 a.m. when the parking lot's open until pretty much when they're empty.
So when, since you brought up the air show, Pete, when because I know it's early this year compared to
right, it's Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, that's
May 13th, 14th.
So that's less than a month. What,
should I send
3 weeks away?
Should I send a volunteer sign up link for Gary? I know
who's
you
gonna
might not be
come on
you might not be a big air show person,
Oh
but
God, I would love. We went one year. We bicycled there. We have some friends who live in Southampton, right over the line.
Yep.
And one year, this was a million years ago, before Grace was born. The four of us bicycled to the air show because we just thought parking at that I don't know what parking lot is like now, but back then it was a nightmare. So we biked to the show and it was awesome.
So now you have to get your parking pass in advance. And it's $20 because they need to recoup some of the cost of the air show. They're kind of self-funded deals. So
did they ever think of doing a shuttle, Pete? You know, I'm just thinking
like
the Flat Fast. They do shuttles.
They have, but the main parking lot that they use is now a solar field on Southampton Road. That big right across from the old digital building.
Yeah.
That used to be a parking lot. They could put about 200 cars in there, and they can't anymore because it's occupied.
Yeah. You know,
there's less parking. So
yeah.
Get your parking pass. Go online to Westfield International Air Show, I believe it is, or Google Westfield International Air Show. You'll find the website.
Okay.
Get your parking pass early. But here's the nice thing: you can carpool. So pack as many people as you can into the $20 car, and everybody can walk in together.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of
maybe I'll sell a few spots over at my house. And
I
knew
that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, what about like I'm thinking about like the old where Riverbend used to be. That's not that far from the airport.
Yeah, that could be a spot if you're in the know.
Yeah,
you could park there and walk down.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, I would. I think the air show would be awesome. I would be like a little kid. Look at that. That's the way we are in the.
If I found a place to get a golf cart. Like if I knew a place where I could pay or somebody donate a golf cart. Anybody that has a golf cart, if you want to donate one, let me know. Because I would have somebody I'd have people park there or at my house and have somebody go pick them up and bring them over. So
yeah.
Oh, maybe I can strike a deal with Ted Perez Jr. He was asking me about if we were broadcasting it on the radio again.
Okay.
Because he has a watch party from the deck of East Mountain Country Club.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I can see if he can trailer me over a golf cart.
Well, you know, I can tell you last year
last
year I was working. I know everybody's shocked that I was at the senior center on the weekend during the air show, but I could see I could see it from the window. I mean, I was up on the second floor going, "Oh my gosh, look at this is so fun." Yeah, that was really cool.
Here's the thing, everybody, if you're at home and you don't want to fight the crowds, which is completely understandable, you can tune into 89.5 FM.
And that's what I did. I tuned in and I'm watching from the senior center and it was so cool.
You can listen to us talking before the air show, but at 10 o'clock when the air show starts, we turn the airwaves over to the show announcer, Rick Peterson, and you hear what he's talking about.
Yeah, so cool.
So you can see it, and especially if you have kids and you don't want to fight the traffic or whatever, just put out a boombox, and if you still have one of those, or some kind of a radio in the backyard, or tune to westfieldtv.org. That's going to be on the delay. So that's going to be probably about a 40-second delay.
Okay.
But better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you can listen to the air show, and we're going to do our best to cover the air show.
Yeah.
It's going to be training people on the fly. Trying to follow a fast-moving airplane is going to be interesting. But we'll give it our best shot.
Yeah.
All weekend. So I know the Knappich boys are really interested in running cameras for that. So
that's awesome.
Yes,
that's great. Now, so Pete, what are the days and the times and all that stuff?
So it is May 13th, 14th,
which is Saturday, Sunday, right? Mother's Day weekend.
Parking lots open at 7 a.m. both days. The gates open at 8. Flying starts at 10 and ends around 3:30.
Now, does it cost to get into it? Are there tickets that you get? No. Okay, so there's
no cost for entry. There's only cost for parking.
All right, and do you bring like lawn chairs or it's been a long time since I've been there.
I believe you can bring chairs, and you can bring a small cooler.
Okay.
But not a big cooler. No alcohol, please,
no
because
alcohol, right? Okay.
And there's you don't really have to bring your lunch because there are plenty of food vendors on site. So.
Oh, really?
Yep. Food and beverage vendors. Yeah.
I personally think this would be a really nice Mother's Day
gift experience.
Fun thing. It's an experience. We talk about the experiential gift. So
Christy's coming with her daughters, I believe, on Saturday. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna check it out. I gotta check it out and see what I can convince my family to do.
After I'm done taping all my stuff today, because I'm going with Auerbach until noon, I think. I have to get the sign-ups set up so people can start signing up, and I know what I got for help. So
Yeah. So, yeah. So is Kenny going to be up there with you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you'll have Kenny.
Yeah.
Any of the high school students here, do you think?
I'm going to ask.
Okay,
it's
we'll
tough,
see.
though.
Yeah, I know. It's the weekend.
It's tough and it's tough to get them, sometimes get them motivated.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're intimidated by this stuff. Like a big project that, they get intimidated.
Yeah.
I keep trying to tell them it's really not that difficult, and you really can't screw it up. So
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Well, that'll be fun. All right. So the air show coming up, and that's like in, I don't know, it's like in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
I have, we have a lot to talk about. There is a lot coming up because the Flat Fast is coming up. The 5K race is coming up.
Not next week, the week after.
It's coming up. It'll be May 6th, so it's a week. I know this because I'm running in it, so I'm trying to semi-train,
so
a little
the
bit.
week from a
so
week
I got
from
a week and a
Saturday.
half. Yeah,
Yep.
I got a week and a half, so I'm running today.
So I have 2 weeks until my air show.
Yes, exactly. It's fast because Mother's Day weekend is the following weekend after that.
And then 6 weeks from the Brewfest.
All right. Well, we have a lot to cover, Pete.
And then right after that.
But we have plenty of time to do it since Joe Rouse is not going to be with us.
And then I think right after that is graduation.
Yeah, graduation is coming up too. I know. Yep.
It's like this is the busy season for me.
Yep, exactly. All right. So with all of this stuff, let's talk about today before we take our first break, because I got to tell you what day it is. Otherwise, people are going to say, what is she playing this song for? Today, because it is the Wednesday of the last full week of April, it's always the Wednesday of the last full week of April. It doesn't matter about the date. It is National Administrative Professionals Day. So all of you bosses who are heading to work, remember, this is a special day for your support staff. So National Administrative Professionals Day, also known as, well, it used to be called Secretary's Day, but we don't really say that much anymore, or Administrative Assistant Day, is observed on the Wednesday of the last full week in April of each year. It's a special day to recognize the work of secretaries, administrative assistants, receptionists, and other administrative support professionals. As a result of a shortage of skilled office workers, Mary Barrett, president of the National Secretaries Association, which is now called the International Association of Administrative Professionals, along with C. King Woodbridge, president of Dictaphone Corporation, had the idea many years ago for a National Secretaries Week. Proclaimed by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Charles Sawyer, the official first National Secretaries Week was held June 1st to 7th in 1952, so this has been around for a while. June 4th, 1952 was designated National Secretaries Day. Due to the expanding responsibilities and wide-ranging job titles of administrative support staff, in the year 2000, the name was changed to Administrative Professionals Week. The IAAP had 2 objectives in mind. One was to recognize the secretary or administrative assistant upon whose skills, loyalty, and efficiency the functions of business and government offices depend, and 2, to call attention through favorable publicity to the tremendous potential of the secretarial career. National Administrative Professionals Day is often celebrated with gifts to one's assistants, such as flowers, gift certificates, gift baskets, candy, or lunch. So happy National Administrative Professionals Day. And I just want to give a shout out to my administrative support staff. So in order, I have 4 of them. And in order of seniority, it's Sandra Fisher, who is our greeter, who has been with the Council on Aging. Sandra is in her 3rd director. She's been there for well over 20 years. I think she's heading toward 25 years. So she's been there for a long time. She started out with volunteers and then in the kitchen, and now she's been at the greeter's desk for about 5 years. So Sandra Fisher, Carol Shannon, who is our principal clerk, who is I think in finishing her 19th year, so just heading toward her 20th year. Mary Kohut, who is our part-time clerk, so she's the person who answers the phone in the morning. She's the one who does takes a lot of the calls for the lunch reservations. So everybody and Mary's the one nobody knows what she looks like. She answers the phone, but she's not usually outside with us.
The voice on the phone.
The voice on the phone. And people will often say, oh, which one is Mary? So we drag her out for really special, luncheons. Like we'll drag her out for the Mother's
Come
Day
out of the
one.
closets.
Exactly. It's like, Mary, let everybody know what you look like. And then Happy Daly. And Happy used to be the city auditor. And just like Carol Palmer, she retired. And just like Carol Palmer, I went and grabbed the two of them because a year
and got really bored.
Exactly, because less than a year into retirement, the two of them were saying, "Hey, like now what do I do? I've cleaned all my closets, and I've played golf, and okay." So anyway, and Happy Daly is our afternoon greeter, so she comes on when Mary leaves at noon. And then Happy works generally 4 days a week from noon until 2:30. So that's our support staff. Happy Administrative Professionals Day to all of you. You all have a little gift waiting for you when you show up at your desk this morning. We have some signs throughout the Senior Center so that we can remind the seniors to just thank our support staff because, truly we can't do it without these people. It really does take a village, to run an office and to run a school, to run a place of employment. And I am the first one, to say when people call me, and our staff now is becoming so sort of professionalized with their own jobs. I mean, when we hired Mary, I told her that one of the added responsibilities I had revised the job description was, I said, you need to be like the information and referral person so that when people have questions about, I need a plumber. Is there a discount rate for senior citizen? Anything
You probably
like
should
that.
call her ombudsman.
She is.
That's almost what an ombudsman really is.
Well, she is, ombudsman, advocate, resource. I mean, you name it. And she is one of those people who just had 1,000 talents that we didn't know she had. Every time, during COVID, she developed, I can't tell you how many brochures because people had all of these questions. So she would do all the research and then she'd create a brochure about, whatever the topic was. So I think she's designed about 6 or 8 brochures for us. And so, just fabulous. And now when I have people that call after hours, I'm like, you have to call tomorrow between 9 and 12 because I don't know the answer to that. Mary will, or, you have to see, Sandra's at lunch. You'll have to come back in a half an hour. Just wait in the fireside lounge. She'll help you out when she gets back here because, even for me covering the front desk now, it's like, I don't know where anything is. I have other experts to do that. So.
Exactly.
All right. So in honor of National Professionals Day, we're gonna listen to our first song by Shania Twain. It's called Honey, I'm Home. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We'll be right back.
Fiddles. The car won't start, it's falling apart. I was late for work and the boss got smart. My panty line shows, got a run on my hose. My hair went flat, man, I hate that. Oh. Just so when I thought things couldn't get worse, I realized I forgot my purse. With all this stress, I must confess, this could be worse than PMS. This job ain't worth the pay. Can't wait till the end of the day. Hey, honey, I'm on my way. Hey, 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 honey, I'm home and had a hard day. Pour me a cold one and oh, by the way, lay up my feet, give me something to eat. Fix me up my favorite treat. Honey, I'm back, my head's killing me. I need to relax and watch TV. Get off the phone, give the dog a bone. Hey, hey, honey, I'm home. A broken nail open in the mail. I cursed out loud cause it hurt like hell. This job's a pain, it's so mundane. It sure don't stimulate my brain. This job ain't worth the pay. Can't wait till the end of the day. Hey, honey, I'm on my way. Hey, 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 honey, I'm home and had a hard day. Pour me a cold one and oh, by the way, flies much better.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield. Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:26. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. There's all kinds of activity starting here.
Apparently, I've become the rocket expert in the building because
well.
Mark got to witness Starship lift off.
Okay,
because
so
he was in Texas.
Tell us who Mark is. Tell our viewers who Mark is, and let's talk a little bit about this trip.
Mark
Pete.
Poulin is our chief custodian here, and his son works for SpaceX in Boca Chica on Starship. And so his son was going to a family event with his wife, for his wife side of the family.
Yep.
And so Mark was down there watching the dogs during the week that this was going on.
Yep.
And
Which
so
was last week.
Which was last week.
Yep.
And he got to witness, we missed it. Monday, Tuesday, we had to go back to Florida. But he was there and had one of my cameras. I don't know how great a job he did, but he said it might have went out of focus, but whatever. But it was kind of soupy, so, you know.
Yeah.
But he got to witness it lift off and go up into the clouds, kind of like we did for SN15. And so Kate Phelan, she's a mentor here.
Yes. Okay.
So she goes, well, they had a big explosion, so why did the moon rocket go up for NASA and theirs exploded? And so I was saying to Mark, I'm like, well, it's a difference in philosophies.
Yep.
NASA was forced to use everything off the shelf.
Okay.
And all proven hardware. So they reused the shuttle engines and the boosters and the tank design, and everything was kind of like put together from previous technology.
Okay.
Well, there's no innovation there. So
Yep.
and there's no reuse or anything like that. Well, SpaceX, on the other hand, is saying we want a fully reusable rocket, not just a first stage like they have now. They want the whole thing to be reusable. Brand new engines on both the first and second stage. Brand new technology, instead of burning hydrogen, they're burning methane, which is natural gas.
Yes.
Which is they can manufacture on Mars. That's something that's a fuel you can manufacture.
Yep.
So it's brand new technology, man.
Yep.
And the other company that's trying methane engines is Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos.
Yep.
And their engine is so far behind that they're screwing up United Launch Alliance, who said we'll buy engines from you guys because they were buying engines from the Russians, and now that's throwing United Launch Alliance. They have launches backed up because now the engines aren't available.
Yep.
For their brand new Vulcan rocket. So it's innovation. So
yeah,
I look at it this way: the launch for the moon rocket launch we watched last fall cost the United States taxpayers $4.5 billion.
Wow.
One launch.
A lot of money.
In contrast, SpaceX's Starship that flew was under $150 million.
Okay.
A fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So you can afford to send one of those up and fail.
Yep.
And say, okay, we learned a lot from that. We'll fix it the next time. That was their whole test campaign for the upper stage when they flew to 40,000 feet and crashed about 5 or 6 of them.
Yep.
That's the campaign: is we test, we fail, they have 2 more boosters and 2 more upper stages ready to go. The biggest problem now is they have to fix all the ground infrastructure that was destroyed because the rocket was so powerful.
Yeah.
It blew chunks of concrete like
Yeah.
100-pound chunks of concrete,
Yep.
300-400 feet away.
Yeah.
So there's the difference.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know
yeah.
that the mainstream media who doesn't know squat was ridiculing SpaceX about it. Oh, it blew up. Yeah, right. But they got it off the pad.
Right.
And that was objective number 1.
Well, and
they
who
got
was
it to
it?
like objective number 10.
Was it Thomas Edison who said, I didn't fail. I now I know 100 ways that this isn't going to work, and it
Right.
helps me to get to what my end goal is. It really is the same kind of philosophy.
Right.
And
because it's relatively inexpensive to test that way, and the
Mm-hmm.
design they have means it's sustainable in the future too. It's not like
Right.
we're 10 missions and we're $4 trillion. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Or $1 trillion after 10
Yep.
missions. No.
Yep.
We're 10 missions and we're
Now,
500
does
a billion.
does NASA and SpaceX, do they collaborate at all, Pete?
Oh
Or
yeah.
they
Oh yes.
oh, they do.
So
Okay.
so NASA right now hires SpaceX to fly a lot of their missions. So NASA hires SpaceX on the Falcon 9 rocket to fly astronauts to the International Space Station. They're like,
Okay.
all right, we don't have the money for that anymore. We're going to contract that out.
Okay.
And so that really helped the private space launch companies grow because
Mm-hmm.
they're getting business from NASA and the Defense Department and things like
Nice.
that. And so NASA also contracted the Starship program, the upper stage, is right now the only moon lander slated on NASA's slate for getting humans to the moon.
Okay.
They're not building a moon lander. They're building a capsule, but the lander is going to be Starship. They might contract one more out as a kind of like a redundancy in case the program really starts to fail. But they did the same thing with getting astronauts to the space station. They, Boeing's Dreamliner had so many problems that they were, thank God that the SpaceX, program had very little problems. And that we don't have to keep paying Russians to
Yep.
buy seats on their rockets.
Right. Yeah.
Now they're buying seats on our rockets.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for that space and rocket update. So, in the end, because we had talked about this a couple weeks ago, so for those of you who don't know, because Pete and I
We
have
were
talked
driving
about
around
this.
like crazy.
Yeah. So Pete and Kenny went to Florida for that launch, but then got tickets to Texas because there was a launch there, but then that one got postponed.
And
but they had to get back to Florida to see the Florida one.
Had not for a single frozen valve
I know, that's
in the
unbelievable.
pressurization tanks,
Yeah.
we would have seen it fly on Monday.
Yeah, and that would have been so cool because you had said
The
weather
was
was really
beautiful.
good.
Yes, the
yeah, the
weather's
weather was
beautiful.
good for that. And then, and what you were saying was the custodian here, Tom. What is his name? Tom.
Mark.
Was there to see it because he happened to be, doing caregiving for his son's house.
Right.
So he actually did see it when did it go off? Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah, but he said the weather wasn't as good.
Right. It's
Yeah, it
low
was
cloud
cloudy.
deck and
Yeah, it
stuff
was
like
cloudy,
that. So
unfortunately, Monday would have been weather-wise, it would have been the perfect
best.
day.
Monday would have been the best.
But but that's part of, and Pete, you and I talked about that when you got back. I mean, that is part
That's
of
the game.
It's the game. It's happened to you before, where you've gone all the way down and they postponed it, had to scrub it, whatever.
Hence, I've already picked my retirement job. I'm going to buy a trailer, live in the Cocoa Beach area, and just shoot rockets for a living.
Oh, there you go.
That's my retirement job.
Okay.
I've already informed my girlfriend, possibly future wife,
Okay.
that's where we're going.
That's
And if
the
you want to come
plan.
along with me, you're more than
Okay.
welcome, but I'm going.
Okay. All right. You know what? It's great. I think it's great. I think it's great to have those, it's great to have those goals and those plans. And, it's certainly something that you have a lot of experience in. I mean, it's not like, some people come up with a retirement plan, which sounds great, but they've never done it. So, and then they
Right.
actually try to do it and say, yeah, well, I hate this. But you've been doing this for as long as I've known you. I mean, you've
Correct.
been doing it for years. So it's like, you know what you're getting into.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep, I know exactly what I'm getting into.
All right, let's do a famous birthday so that we can take a break. It is the birthday, today is April 26th. It is the birthday of the late Bobby Rydell, singer born on this day in 1952 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He died last year. He just died about a year ago.
No
April
kidding.
April 5th, 2022. He was 79 years old. He was born Robert Rittarelli, in an Italian neighborhood, do you think, in South Philly.
Shorten it.
Exactly. Bobby Rydell showed his musical ability at an early age, playing drums professionally at the age of 9.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty amazing. As a teenager in the late 1950s, Rydell sat in with local dance band Rocco and the Saints, which included fellow future star Frankie Avalon. He appeared on Dick Clark's American Bandstand in 1959 and went on to sell more than 25 million records during his career. His most popular hits include Kissin' Time, Wild One, and Volare. In the early 1960s, Rydell showed his acting and comedic skills when he appeared on The Perry Como Show, The Red Skelton Hour, The Jack Benny Show, The Ed Sullivan Show, The Joey Bishop Show, Shindig, Hullabaloo, and as a regular on The Milton Berle Show. Now, all of my older adults who watch this programming every Wednesday morning are going to remember all of those shows that I just listed.
I know most of those titles.
Yeah, same. Well, I remember watching some of those shows. In 1963, Bobby starred with Anne Margaret in the iconic movie Bye Bye Birdie, and I was in Bye Bye Birdie when I was in high school. That was my senior year. That was our high school musical, and I didn't remember Bobby Rydell being in it, so I had to look up and see what part he played. Well, he played the role of Hugo Peabody. And Hugo Peabody was Anne Margaret's, high school love, her high school heartthrob. At 19, Bobby Rydell was the youngest headliner to play the Copacabana in New York. His influence on popular music was profound. When the producers of Grease wanted to pay tribute to the era in which the popular musical was set, they named the high school where most of the action took place Rydell High in his honor. Rydell's intense touring schedule was interrupted in 2012 when he underwent a liver and kidney transplant at the age of 70. He received 75% of a liver and 1 kidney. His life was about to end when the generous family of a dying child saved 8 lives by organ donation. Bobby Rydell returned to the stage in Las Vegas just 6 months, turning near tragedy to triumph. His experience led him to bring public awareness to the importance of organ donation through the Gift of Life organization, spreading the word during his worldwide tours. And I looked this up and I thought, okay, you do the math. He lived another 9 years after his organ. I mean, he was 70 when he received those organs. Yep. Lived another 9 years and kept working and performing.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
I mean, really lived a very full and rich life. So happy birthday to the late Bobby Rydell. And in his honor, we're going to play one of his songs during this break. This is one of my favorites, and I thought that my seniors who listen would really like this one. It's Volare by Bobby Rydell. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back.
Where lovers enjoy peace of mind. Let us leave the confusion and all disillusion behind. Just like birds of a feather, a rainbow together will find. Given it wings, sing the song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. La 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 la. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's fly way up to the clouds, away from the maddening crowds. together we'll find. Volare, whoa, cantare, whoa, ooh, no wonder my happy heart sings. Your love has given it wings, little baby. Your love has given it wings. So, your love has given it wings. Yeah, your love has given it wings. No wonder my happy.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:41. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, we've been talking about flight, and we've been talking about rockets, and Harry Rock is going to be having a pilot on his show starting at 8 o'clock after this. So we're going to talk about, the original flyers, which are the birds. So it is the birthday today, April 26th, of the late John James Audubon, ornithologist and painter, born on this day in 1785 in Haiti. He died January 27, 1851, at the age of 65. John James Audubon was an American ornithologist, artist, and naturalist known for his studies, drawings, and paintings of North American birds, the original flyers. Audubon conducted his first scientific studies from his father's Pennsylvania estate. After trying and failing in several different types of business ventures, he concentrated on drawing and studying birds, and he began traveling around the country to pursue his work. He got his extraordinary 4-volume Birds of America published in London in 1827 and followed it up with several related works. John James Audubon is remembered as one of the most important naturalists of his era. His respect and concern for the natural world clearly marks him as one of the forefathers of the modern conservationism and environmentalism movements. In 1886, the first Bird Preservation Society was named in his honor, which led to the establishment of the National Audubon Society in 1905. Countless wildlife sanctuaries, parks, streets, and towns also bear his name and honor his legacy. So happy birthday to the late John James Audubon. And, interestingly, his that 4-volume Birds of America book, he could not get that published in the United States. There just wasn't the interest in this country at the time. And he went over to England, and they just embraced it. They saw his work, they saw his drawings, and he was kind of like an instant hit. And so when he came back after spending time in England and, after they raved about him, that's when he really started to take off here in the United States. We were a little slow out of the gate on that one. Yeah. But it's interesting to me, some of these people that were, sort of the forefathers, the forward thinkers of some of these movements, that now seems so common to us. Conservation. We all have a conservation commission. Every city and town has, but they didn't have that back then. People weren't thinking along those lines. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you, Pete? I was going to, I can't. It went out of my head. I got to write these things down as I think about them, as I'm reading things and thinking about things. You know what? I'll tell you what. Let's take a break because it already is 6:45, believe it or not. And this next song is really interesting. I wanted to get a song about birds. So I Googled.
How to go find this one?
I kind of Googled it, and well, it was really interesting because I almost went with the John Denver one, the Hawk and the Eagle, because that's kind of a cool one. But then I came across this Elton John song. I'd never heard of it. It's called Skyline Pigeon. It's about pigeons being freed and let loose, and it talks about like the band on the pigeon's foot. So. We're going to take this break so I can grab some water. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. This is Skyline Pigeon by Elton John. We'll be back.
Turn me loose from your hand. Distant lands, over green fields, trees and mountains, flowers and forest fountains, home along the lanes of the skyway, for this dark and lonely room projects a shadow cast in gloom, and my eyes are mirrors of the world outside, thinking of the ways that the wind can turn the tide, and these shadows turn from purple into green, for just this skyline pigeon dreaming of the open, waiting for the day that he can spread his wings and fly away again. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Let me wake up in the morning to the smell of new mown hay, to laugh and cry, to live and die in the brightness of my day. I wanna hear the pealing bells of distant churches sing, but most of all, please free me from this aching metal ring, and open out this cage towards the sun, for just this skyline pigeon dreaming of the open, waiting for the day that he can spread his wings and fly away again. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind. Fly away, skyline pigeon, fly towards the dreams you left so very far behind.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m. Go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England. Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So that was probably an Elton John song. I had certainly never heard of it, and definitely wasn't like one of the top 100. But I love it. I thought it was such a beauuful song. That's why
Looks
I
like it comes off an album where he covered stuff. Covered other albums or other songs.
Okay. And there was a history behind that song and why that was written and so forth, and I can't remember it now because I was doing a lot of research on my songs over the weekend.
Sure.
But I just thought that was really pretty. So, and if you listen to the lyrics, it's a really nice song. I really like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do one more. Well, we have a couple more birthdays to do. We'll finish up with the April 26th birthdays. Today's the birthday of the late Frederick Law Olmsted. He was a writer and a landscape architect. And I love to get, of course, when I do birthdays of singers and actors and actresses, and the next one that I'm going to do, everybody knows who she is. But I like to get some of these obscure ones because some of these people did some really interesting things. Well, Frederick Law Olmsted was born on this date in 1822 in Hartford, Connecticut. And that's another thing I always like to, if we have famous people that did cool things that are from this area, I like to grab those. He passed away August 28th, 1903 at the age of 81. Frederick Law Olmsted was probably the most important American landscape architect of all time. Despite not taking up the profession until well into adult life, Olmsted had a monumental impact on the field. His countless achievements include, this is what he designed: Central Park, New York City, Prospect Park in Brooklyn, Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, the Stanford University campus, and the U.S. Capitol grounds. That's just to name a few. Landscape architecture was a very new field when Olmsted entered it. However, the American landscape architect was much more than that. He was also a master organizer, social reformer, city planner, and environmental advocate. Every time Olmsted designed a landscape, he did so in service of bigger ideals. From his childhood, he understood the benefits of spending time in nature. As an adult, he dedicated much of his career to making those benefits accessible to as many people as possible, particularly city dwellers. Olmsted worked based on the principle that access to green spaces has a powerful effect on human physical and mental health, and also cultivates healthy community relationships. So again, I go back to a forward thinker who was probably well ahead of his time in understanding that, wellness, and we talk a lot about health and wellness on this program. Part of that is about nature and green spaces and sort of connecting and, sort of that quietness of nature. So Olmsted was democratic in these principles, believing that parks should be available to all and could serve as places for all members of society to interact productively, including different social classes that wouldn't usually mix otherwise. I thought that was such an interesting concept. All this was being done in the 1800s. And Olmsted was really looking at it saying, it doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or you're poor or anything in between, you should be able to use green spaces. And this is a place where you ought to just be able to get together and, and mingle. So he coined the term communitiveness to express this idea of diverse people coming together through the landscape. In many ways, his true significance lies as much in the philosophy behind his work as it does in the work itself. And I think that was really true. So, if I had stopped with the fact that Frederick Law Olmsted was an architect, landscape architect, and he designed Central Park and he designed, the Biltmore Estate and so forth, that would have been like, okay, but it was really his philosophy behind his designs that I think, I agree, I think that was really significant to the field. So happy birthday to Frederick Law Olmsted for the work that he did. And, I think of places like Stanley Park, and I think that's why it's so important for us to support the park in as many ways as we can, because it is a resource and all kinds of people use it. Older people, younger people, everyone in between, people who have money, people who don't have a lot of money. It's a great resource as all of our parks. And finally, it is the birthday, and I had to throw this one in here because she's just so great. It is the birthday of Carol Burnett, television, film, and stage actress. She was born on this date in 1933 in San Antonio, Texas. Carol Burnett is 90 years old today.
Isn't she in a new movie? I just saw a promo for a movie with her in it.
I saw the same promo. Now I'm trying to remember what the movie was because I've only seen the promo once. It reminded me of 80 for Brady.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. It was a different one.
It was something else.
And I think you're right, Pete. I don't know if I don't remember if she was in there or not because it was like a quick flash on the screen that I saw. But check that out. Let us know. So Carol Burnett, who reminds me of Carol Burnett is Carol Palmer. I swear to God, it's in the name. But Carol Palmer in, 15 years, whenever she turns 90, she just reminds me of Carol Burnett, cracks me up. So Carol Burnett made her television debut on the Gary Moore Show, which she appeared on from 1959 to 1962. She became popular through television guest appearances and specials before receiving her own comedy variety show, which was called The Carol Burnett Show, and that aired beginning in 1967. The Carol Burnett Show usually opened with a question and answer session with the audience, and the silliness ensued. Broad comedy skits and sketches with Burnett using her expressive face to get humorous ends. I had to go back because I used to watch the Carol Burnett Show all the time, but I couldn't remember, and I did remember there was something that used to happen at the beginning. So I went back and played some segments of the Carol Burnett Show back from the 60s, and she would come out, kind of like Johnny Carson, but she would come out, and then people in the audience, they would just like raise their hand and, they would ask a question. Sometimes it was personal. Sometimes it was something else. And, she would have to kind of spontaneously come up with these answers. And then, of course, they had all these, these really great skits. Her show ran for 11 seasons. Carol Burnett also appeared in a number of feature films and on Broadway. She published her autobiography called One More Time in 1986. Carol Burnett won Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe Awards for her work in various genres. In 2009, she received a unique honor. I thought this was great. One of her costumes from the Carol Burnett Show was added to the collection of the Smithsonian's American History Museum. The dress was selected from her famed spoof of Gone with the Wind. And I had to go back. I don't know if you ever saw that, Pete, but she does this.
The whole thing on the Carol Burnett Show, yeah.
Yes, and she does this spoof on Gone with the Wind. I actually went back. It's a 20-minute segment because it's broken down into 3 parts, and they have commercials in the part. So I actually went back to watch this thing, and I just wanted to watch the part where she comes down the stairs with the curtains, and in Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara has to dress up for Rhett Butler because she doesn't want him to know how poor she is and how she didn't make it through the war. So she takes these velvet curtains and she has Mammy or whoever make a dress out of them. So in the spoof, Carol Burnett comes down, but she has the curtain rod in the curtains, right? So she's wearing this thing with the curtain rod. Well, it's absolutely hilarious. And I wanted to just play that part of it, but I ended up watching the entire 21-minute, 3-part segment of the whole Gone with the Wind spoof. It's hysterical. For those of you who have YouTube, if you're tech savvy and you can watch on your computer, just Google the Carol Burnett Gone with the Wind segment. It is hilarious. So that curtain rod costume is now in the Smithsonian Museum. In 2013, Carol Burnett became the recipient of the Kennedy Center Honors, one of the most respected awards given to the creative minds who influence American culture with their art. So happy 90th birthday. I can't think of a better person than the executive director of a Council on Aging and Senior Center to wish Carol Burnett a happy 90th birthday. She is fun. She's a blast. And her expressions are priceless. I mean, the eyes, the eye rolling, and so forth. Just amazing. It is 7 o'clock. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll take our top of the hour break and we'll be back.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, we were just talking about Carol Burnett and her, facial expressions and so forth, and I mentioned her eye rolls, which reminded me of a conversation that came up yesterday in Bob Plass's show.
Oh.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, Bob had Councilor Brent Bean on the show yesterday. And, I don't know if Bob pointed it out because I kind of came into the middle of that. Brent is currently, I believe, is the longest serving member of the city council. I think he has been on the city council now longer than anyone else. Others have come and gone.
Okay.
But, part of the discussion yesterday, and Bob was asking Brent about, if other counselors are talking or, if, members of the audience during public participation, your public speaking, can you keep a poker face if you don't agree with what they're saying? And Brent was saying, and I was laughing because Brent said some of the counselors are really good at at just kind of keeping a neutral, expression. So whether they're really agreeing with the person or really disagree, you kind of don't know. And Brent was saying he's really terrible at that. And so Bob had asked him, he said, are you, like doing the eye roll? And Brent said, I have to be so careful. And I almost texted or called in to say, I know that when I go to council meetings, I have to be very careful about where I sit. Karen Noblet and I used to have this discussion because there are cameras in there. So
yes,
if you're
I do know that.
Exactly. So even if you are in the audience, you, depending on where you're sitting, you can often be on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very cognizant of where I'm sitting and whether or not I have to keep that kind of deadpan expression, even though, I may be rolling my eyes and shaking my head. What are you talking about? No, disagree. Or the opposite, yeah, that's so true. So it cracked me up. But anyway, thank you to Brent Bean for going on Bob's show. I knew he was going to be on because Bob and I were at a Pride meeting the night before, planning all kinds of things for Pride Month during June. And I had asked him, I said, who's on your show in the morning? And he said
that one surprised me. I looked at his rundown and I went, "What?"
Yeah, I know, but it was really, really interesting. And it was really interesting that Brent had brought up. I think Bob had asked him about. They talked about weak mayor, strong council, form of government, and so forth, and the veto thing, and. Of course, there had just been an article in the Westfield News about, the mayor vetoing something. And Brent had said in the article, and he mentioned it again on Bob's show, that was the first time that had happened since he's been on the city council.
Right.
And so I thought the timing was really interesting on that question. And that really kind of was a question. I don't think it was planned. It just came as part of the discussion that they were, that had evolved during the conversation. But it was really great to hear from Brent. And I think sometimes it's really just fun to hear from, some of the city councilors, but especially those who have been on the council for a while. And speaking of politics and local government, I saw today's Westfield News front page, Mayor McCabe he announced his bid for re-election. Apparently, right now, there's only one person who possibly is running against him. She lives, I think, on Casimir Street, and I think has taken out papers for, Ward 2 city councilor, at-large city councilor, mayor, school committee, and gas and light. So she has to figure out what exactly she's running for, but apparently she's running for something. So we'll see how that all unfolds.
He had announced that on Harry's show last month.
Yep, I remember. But I guess the formal announcement came in the paper today, and I think he has that came, I think, Pete, because he has with his kickoff event, which is coming up, I believe, next week. So good luck to Mayor McCabe and anyone who decides to pull papers. So it is that time for those who, and interestingly, I know some people who are not looking for mayor, but possibly city councilor. So, interesting to see if we get some new blood there. We'll see how that all unfolds.
I don't like people that hedge their bets, so pick one and go for
it. I kind of feel the same way, and I'm sort of like, okay, we're everything from, the mayor to gas and electric light board. It's like, okay, and everything in between, school committee. I mean,
pick one.
Those are very different kinds of groups and organizations and
responsibilities.
And it requires a different skill set. So I think I would be looking at it going, well, what do you think you can bring to the table, to serve the city in the best capacity? And that's what you want to go for. Not, where do I think I can win? Or, to me, it's like, well, here's my skill set. And if you don't win, if you decide, hey, listen, I have the skills to be a city councilor, and you don't win, you can be on a committee, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's why I was on the Public Safety Communications Committee before it dissolved.
Sure.
When it became regional, they had to restructure it. So Yeah. I served on that until it dissolved. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was, Pete, I remember when you were on that committee, I'm like, it's right up his alley. He's been doing this forever. So
right. Yep.
So all good stuff.
I could bring insight to it.
Yep. So, for those of you who are thinking about running, and I applaud anybody who does. It is, and also, just for those who are on boards and city boards and city commissions. Our board, actually, the Council on Aging Board of Directors, has its annual meeting in May. We hold that every May, and that's when they elect officers. And we, it's a small board, but we have really dedicated people. And I know that, commissions, the Planning Commission and the Water Commission and the Conservation and Police and Fire, all those things. If you're interested in any of those, if you think, that you can bring something to the table, or, you think you can do it better than, or be more effective than sort of maybe the way it's being run, let the mayor's office know that you're interested, because most of those are appointed by the mayor. So if you're interested, let the mayor know and tell the mayor why. And now with Cindy Harris doing the person, when Councilor Harris took over the Personnel Action Committee, she really professionalized, I think, the boards and commissions. So now, if you want to serve on a board or be reappointed, you kind of have to put out your resume, sort of thing, and it's like, okay, what makes you qualified, or why are you interested? So you do sort of a letter of intent. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an extensive background in something, but, maybe an interest for a variety of reasons. So, think about that. I think the city's always looking for good people who, who are really concerned about bringing their talents to the table.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do a little bit of news about the senior center. Let me give you an update, first of all, as Pete and I were joking about it at the beginning of the show about the second floor renovation project. So where we are on that project, we are hoping the target end date should be mid to late June. And they are pretty much on schedule. So I think that is a realistic goal. It has been completely framed out. We're taking a very large storage area, and we're creating an office suite. There will be 4 offices. So the offices have been framed, and I would say the sheetrocking is probably about 75% done. It's about 75% done from the bottom up, but all the top is still open because we have to reroute the fire, the sprinkler system. So the fire, it's not the Westfield Fire Department, but there's a fire services company that will be coming out this morning they've been out, they did their plans, but they're going to come out in earnest and figure out how and when they're going to start that process. So that should be happening very soon. And then when they're done, then the Cornerstone building has the contract, and they'll be back out to build the framework for the HVAC system, for the heating and ventilation system. So that the HVAC is about 70% done already. Again, it was up there. We obviously had an HVAC system in the storage, but it had to be rerouted so that it's now going into these new offices. And then once that's done, then they really start all the finishing stuff, putting in the ceiling tiles. Electrical is about, it's probably about 80% done now. So, they've really been moving along on this project. So, and I have to say, very respectful of the fact that we have programs and activities going on in the senior center. Obviously, noise is a bit of a factor, but it has not been nearly as bad as we thought it would be. They are the guys that are working, the two workers from Cornerstone, primary workers, My Hair and Roman, are really terrific. Very conscious of keeping things clean and zipping up. It is a hard hat area, so when they are working, we are not allowed in that area at all. And so we mentioned earlier, Pete was able to get a little sneak preview of what was going on up there because he happened to come on Monday, and they were off on Monday because they're waiting. The Cornerstone guys are waiting for the fire company to come in and do their thing. So they're kind of at a standstill, so they were elsewhere. But Pete, let's talk about why you were at the Senior Center on Monday. So Pete was there filming the students from Westfield State. And, a few weeks ago, we had Thomas Alves on this show. He's a senior in the Movement Science program over at Westfield State University. And he is sort of chairing, I would say Thomas is definitely the group facilitator for a group project that they're working on with the Senior Center. This is for Dr. Melissa Rohde's. It's more of an administrative class within the Movement Science program. So we have a group of 5 students, and one of the parts of their project, they've been working with the Senior Center, developing a poster, developing some flyers and brochures with information on, appropriate exercises for older adults, but especially those that you can do in your home year-round. That is what their focus has been, trying to make it so you don't have to go to a gym, you can do it at home, you don't need a bunch of different special equipment. That was the whole focus. And they were at the Senior Center on Monday, as was Pete, because they actually filmed a class in the fitness room, and we will be airing that on Channel 15 starting next month. So we're adding that to our fitness repertoire on Channel 15. So we're excited about that. Pete and I, Pete set up the camera. The two of us left the room because we figured
they were a little nervous.
They were nervous. They were a little nervous, which, of course they would be. Why not, right? But anyway, I'm sure that it was a great program. I know they put a lot of thought into it, and Thomas was saying that he will have the information to me probably by next week. So right now we have an information table this month. Last month, the focus was Retire the Fire, so we had lots of information and brochures when you come in the lobby. This month, it is on, it's information that we got through the Mayor's Office of Consumer Information, and that is actually based in Springfield, but it provides information, services, and resources to really the greater Pioneer Valley. And Milagros Johnson heads that program. She's been on this show. She's been on Channel 22, Channel 40. She's quite
for years.
Yes, she really knows her stuff. So anyway, we have all the information on identity theft and scams and how to avoid them, and all kinds of that kind of information out. We will be taking that down next week, because next week starts May, and we will be putting up the information from the students at Westfield State on their exercise program. So we're excited about that, excited that we have some information that we'll be sharing with all of you. So that's the update on the second floor renovation project. Now, for those of you who are avid viewers or listeners of this program, you know that it is the 4th Wednesday of the month, and typically on the 4th Wednesday of the month, we have Joe Rouse with us from the health department. Joe sent a desperate text to Pete and me this morning saying that unfortunately he's not feeling well at all. This sounds like it's kind of major. I mean, fever and the whole 9 yards and coughing. So he is not with us this morning. But in his honor, and because I actually have some information that Joe and I were going to be covering, I'll be kind of doing this solo, and, Pete's my sidekick. So in honor of Joe Rouse and the fact that we are going to be talking about some health-related issues in the next half hour or so, we're going to play his theme song, which is Good to Be Alive, Hallelujah by Andy Grammer. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back.
Show just climbing this rope right here. And if there's a man upstairs, he kept bringing me rain. But I've been sending up prayers and something's changed. I think I finally found my hallelujah. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Now all my dreams are coming true, yeah. I've been waiting for this moment. It's good to be alive right about now. Wanted right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Hallelujah, let that bassline move, yeah, say yeah. It's good to be alive right about now. I almost cannot handle it. I could get used to this. I almost cannot handle it. I could get used to this. I think I finally found It's good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Hallelujah, let that bassline move, yeah, say yeah. It's good to be alive right about now.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:22. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
It's just the two of us. Joe Rouse is not feeling well. He's a little under the weather this morning. It sounds like he's a lot under the weather this morning. So, but Joe and I we had a really interesting topic, which I'm going to start covering solo. So April 26th is Stop Food Waste Day. So I thought to myself, okay, haven't heard of that one. So let me look this up. And when I did, and I started doing some research on this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the perfect topic for Joe and I to discuss. And so I emailed Joe and I sent him the information. And he's like, that's perfect. Let's talk about that. Well, Joe's not here, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So Stop Food Waste Day. Humans, particularly in America, weren't always responsible for the massive amounts of wasted food and food products. Centuries ago, before Europeans migrated and settled in the land occupied by Native Americans, food wastage was an unknown concept. Native Americans, who primarily hunted and gathered for their meals, were well known to use every part of a slaughtered animal. Hides were used for clothing and shelter. Brains were used to tan the hide, and even bones were used for tools and to sew. Were used for tools to sew or dig holes. Rarely did anything edible or usable go to waste. And it's interesting because when I read that paragraph, it reminded me of the fact that my husband Gary has taken to watching some of these shows of, surviving in extreme conditions, usually cold. And a lot of those, people who choose to live off the grid. And that is exactly, and Gary has made he's commented about that when he's watching these shows. I mean, these people slaughter an animal or, catch a bear. There's not one part of that
Correct.
Animal that is not used for something, fuel, food, housing, something. So it really does make you stop and think. The early pioneers in this country echoed this story. Settlers moving westward in the new continent, the pioneers of the late 1880s, were faced with scarce resources and harsh conditions, so they adopted many similar practices to eliminate food waste. The pioneers were sometimes even known to donate food, though before this they would use the lard for soap and even make use of parts of an animal's body like the head and feet. The modern concept of food waste, as we conceptualize it today, was created in the boom before World War II, industrialization. Suddenly, food and goods that would have been challenging and expensive to obtain were being churned out and processed with such alarming speed that they lost their precious value. Industrialization made it easier for people to accept waste because they knew there would be more available the next day, and that too at an affordable price. However, new sanitation systems still used food waste in creative ways, and people recycled what was possible, often out of necessity. World War II, in many ways, marked the end of scarcity. Toward its end, rationing ended, the Depression was over, industry was booming, and new materials and waste disposal practices made it easy to chuck whatever you had, buy a new one, and feel secure with the out-of-sight, out-of-mind mentality. At this time, food waste began to take off. There was no longer a need to repurpose it, and disposal of perfectly good resources was becoming widespread. Today, food waste is a rampant problem. Almost half of the food produced in the United States goes to waste. That's unbelievable to me.
See, it's weird because my barrel only goes out once a month, really.
Yep.
I don't need to put it out every week or every 2,
Well,
every 2 weeks.
You know, some people are a lot more conscious than others, but that is an amazing statistic. Almost half of the food produced in the United States goes to waste. This means that there are 80 billion pounds of good food simply sent to the trash.
Well, a lot of people think that just by going the expiry date, like, you know, the
yes.
food, that there's stuff that lasts long past the best sell-by date or best date, that it's like, I have rolls that I bought a month ago that are still fine because I keep them in the refrigerator.
Oh, sure.
Or
well,
the freezer.
in the freezer. Well, we've had people
Even the refrigerator.
Yeah, we've had people that have called us. You handed out bread and it already expired, and I threw it out. I'm like, yeah, but we had it in the freezer. You know, we got it donated to us and immediately put it in the freezer. It's been in the freezer for a month or whatever. Take it out, thaw it out. It's fine. It's been frozen.
Right.
I mean, it's a walk-in freezer. It's freezing.
If you inspect the bread and you don't see mold, you're fine.
Well, exactly. That's what it was like. You know, you can use it for toast. You can whatever. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, people think that I had to educate Christy on that. She's like, "Oh, I got to throw this away." I'm like, "Why?
Right.
Did you smell it? Does it smell bad? No. Is it how far past it? You know, cans of stuff last forever.
Oh, it lasts forever. It lasts forever. And you know what, Pete? It was interesting because Joe Rouse has done a show on. I remember him doing, and maybe next month we'll have him kind of revisit that. It's like, sell by, best if used by, expired on, and those things mean different, they mean different things.
Right.
Like best if used by simply means it may have lost a little bit of the flavor if you go way past this date,
right.
and you use it 6 months from now, it might not be as flavorful as it would have been had you, but it's
still
perfectly
edible.
fine. It's perfectly edible. It's not, there's nothing, you're not going to get sick from it. The flavor may not be all it would be if you had eaten it,
Right.
sooner.
Use spices then.
Right. Exactly.
But I come up with things like even my leftovers. I come up with creative ways for leftovers too.
Yep.
Very little goes to waste in my house.
Yep.
There has to be mold growing on it before I chuck it.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same way. So listen to this. So there are 80 billion, I said this, there are 80 billion pounds of good food simply sent to the trash. With this trend came great inequities. Since millions of people experience hunger and starvation every day, there are roughly 219 pounds of wasted food per person per year. Each person is wasting 219 pounds of food. That's a lot of food. And so we're going to talk.
Yeah, we still have people go hungry in this country.
Well, that's the thing that's amazing.
It's
I mean,
insane to me.
it's one thing. It's one thing to say, well, everybody's got plenty, and yep, okay. But everybody doesn't have plenty. I mean, that's what we talk about, food insecurity. We talk about food insecurity in the schools. We talk about food insecurity. Do you know we had a senior Friday afternoon, because this always happens on Friday, like, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're scrambling around putting emergency food together for him because he's eating dog and cat food. Now that's
insane.
That's insane. We shouldn't.
In
this country, that's insane. When you know that half of the food that gets produced gets wasted. So we are going to talk when we come back after this break a little bit about how to observe Stop Food Waste Day, how to prevent wasting food. Pete just brought up leftovers. We're going to talk about leftovers. A lot of people, I don't eat leftovers. What? My God, my family would starve if they didn't eat leftovers. I'm just going to say that right out of the gate.
I live by myself. Although I'm not single, I live by myself. And if I don't cook leftovers, I got a problem.
Yeah, well, and I'm a workaholic, so if my family doesn't eat leftovers, they got a problem.
Right, exactly.
But we're going to talk about that when we come back. It's 7:30. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. In honor of the birthday of Frederick Law Olmsted, who was a landscape architect and someone who was very forward-thinking about the healthy aspect of being outdoors and parks.
I decided we'd take a look at our downtown park while we're playing this song.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. We're going to listen to Chicago singing Saturday in the Park. We'll be back.
Bronze man
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldState.bncollege.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
As you know, Joe Rouse is typically with us on the fourth Wednesday of the month. Joe is under the weather this morning. So Pete and I are covering this topic on our own called, it is National Stop Food Waste Day. So we've kind of talked a little bit about some of the statistics and some of the massive amounts of food that is wasted in this country every single day. So I wanted to go over how can we observe that? How can we change this? And what can we do today to kind of begin that process for those of you who are guilty of this? And we probably all are, I think, to a greater or lesser extent. But I think being a lot more conscious of how to avoid food waste is important. So here are a few tips. First of all, stock your refrigerator smartly. So what does that mean? Well, humans can't help it. Our animal instinct is to buy more food than we need. However, if we want to reduce our food waste, it's our job to fight the instinct. Instead of buying in bulk, plan what you'll need for the week and make sure that you have the means to store it. You know, it's really important. And we're really good about this at the senior center. There are times that people will call and want to donate food. And it really depends. If we've just gotten, our deliveries and we just don't have the space and it has to be refrigerated or frozen, we have to turn it down because it's kind of like, well, if we can eat it right away, that's one thing. But if we can and we don't have a place to store it, and we will move mountains to try to get those, create space.
Sure, yeah.
But there are regulations. If you have a walk-in cooler or a walk-in freezer, you can't store things on the floor. It has to be it's got to be up off the floor. So it's either got to be on shelves or, something like that. So when you shop, make sure that you're stocking your refrigerator smartly. Now, if there are, like Pete was mentioning, if there are canned goods on sale, well, those last almost forever.
Yep.
I mean, they last a really long time,
Yep.
most of the time way beyond the expiration date. So, go ahead and, you can kind of store those wherever. And that brings up the next topic, which is storing food correctly. Food spoilage accounts for over 60% of food waste. Learn to store your perishables correctly or invest more heavily in frozen or non-perishable foods. And I didn't know this. Did you know that, I only knew one. Did you know that potatoes, tomatoes, and onions should never be refrigerated? I didn't know that. I knew about tomatoes, but I didn't know about that.
I didn't know about onions.
Yeah, I didn't either. Or potatoes for that matter. I gotta research that. But anyway, I think more importantly is, what Pete was saying before, like, with your breads and things like that, they will go moldy, but you can keep those in the refrigerator. They tend to dry out a little bit, so make sure that if you're storing them in the fridge that they're wrapped in plastic and, all that kind of good stuff. I would invest in some good plasticware that is reusable and washable, but, will keep things fresh.
Yep.
So store your food correctly, really important. And I know Joe Rouse has done we've had numerous conversations about defrosting and, don't defrost your meats out on the counter. It has to be done in the refrigerator and, just putting things away, especially now with summer coming. I know we'll probably be talking about that next month. You know, those products when you have a picnic and how long things are sitting out and so forth. So because that's, you know, again, that's waste. If you have a party or a picnic and you put all the food out and then it's out there for, you know, it's got mayonnaise or you have potato salad or whatever. Well, you know, if it doesn't get eaten and you've had it out there for several hours, you're going to have to throw it out.
So I found the answer on potatoes.
Okay, what did you find?
Raw potatoes have a lot of starches, and the cold temperatures can turn these starches into sugars. This can make your potatoes turn sweeter and darker during cooking.
Okay, all right.
Makes sense because the potato sits
Yeah.
in the ground.
Yes.
I think it would turn the starches into sugars to store it for the winter, and then when it comes spring to resprout, it would use those sugars to...
Yeah, for the energy, basically.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
That's
How about
interesting.
this? And here's what Pete and I were talking about before. So we got to talk about leftovers. Eat the extras. From leftovers to the skins on fruits and vegetables, there is often so much more edible food in a meal than you think. Too often, skins on fruits, vegetables, and chicken are peeled off and go to waste. Don't miss out on the nutrients. Another great way to reduce your food waste is to feast on leftovers. So we need to talk about leftovers a little bit, Pete, because as you and I mentioned, like my family would starve if they didn't eat leftovers.
Yeah.
And I actually.
Well, I'll make a big meal at the beginning. Like
Exactly.
I'll make a big thing of taco meat and have that all week in different forms. One day I'll make a taco salad. One day I'll make, you know, I'll make nachos or something or whatever.
Exactly.
Gets me through most of a week.
Absolutely. And I do the same thing. I mean, we're still working off the salad that I made, 3 or 4 days ago in this bowl that, as Grace said, it takes up an entire shelf in the refrigerator. But you can do a lot with that. You can have it on the side. You can add chicken and have it as a meal, or tuna fish, or hard-boiled eggs, or, so we're huge on salads and things. But the same thing, because I don't do a whole lot of cooking. So when I do, if I'm going to make a nice meal, I purposely make plenty so that I've got leftovers. If it's something that freezes well, like chili or soup or something like that, or spaghetti sauce, I'll make that so that and then I have my little containers. There's a lot that can be done with leftovers, and we, especially soups. I mean, we're big on that at the senior center. If we have, meat left over, something like that, well, you can probably bet that it's going to show up in soup at the end of the week. And, but I was shocked because I grew up in our house. It was a treat when my mom would cook, and my mother loved to cook, so there was always plenty of food. But at the end of the week, when we had a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and it was leftover day, because for us, for the kids, the fun was you got to choose what you were going to have. Well, I want to have the leftover meatloaf. Okay, well, I'm going to have the leftover, spaghetti sauce, and I'm going to have the leftover fish, or whatever it was. So I think as parents, you teach your children through example. And if you are one of those parents that, no, I'm pickier, I don't like leftovers, or I don't eat leftovers, guess what? Your children won't either.
Yeah.
And not a good way to bring up your kids. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I ever even knew anybody or heard of anybody that didn't eat leftovers. And I was absolutely shocked, because I grew up during the baby boom generation. Everybody in my neighborhood had 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 kids. And so everybody ate leftovers. I mean, I had never heard. And, part of it is being creative with it. I also will tell you that I think some things are better the second time. So, to me, lasagna is, I could eat leftover lasagna like 7 days a week, because it just, to me, and meatballs and spaghetti, there are just certain things where, the spices really have a chance to, so really good. Okay, interesting facts about food waste. There are millions starving. Pete and I were talking about this. If we lived in a world without food waste, experts believe we would be able to feed 3 billion more people. That's a lot more than the 925 million who are estimated to go hungry today. Wasted water. I never thought about this. Wasted water is expensive. Annually, uneaten food wasted 1/4 of our water supply, to the tune of $172 billion. Well, think about it. We need water to raise crops, and so if we are using the water and raising the crops and then producing the food and then throwing half of it out, well, you just wasted all of that water on food that you're not eating. All right, landfills create methane. and Pete was talking about this before with the rocket launch. We've all heard of methane, the greenhouse gas that's pumping the gas on global warming even more than carbon dioxide. Food rotting in landfills produces a huge amount of this dangerous chemical. So think about that. Fruits and vegetables are the most wasted. So some of the most perishable foods, generally fruits, vegetables, and roots, go to waste more than any other variety of food. Well, again, because, shelf life and storing it correctly. Now you get into proper storage. So, I know that if I'm going to buy a bunch of fruits to make a salad, or vegetables or fruits to make either a fruit or vegetable salad, I have to make the salad and store everything properly. I can't just leave it all out on the kitchen, counter for the next week, because it's going to get moldy, it's going to start rotting. So make sure that you're not letting those things go to waste. And then finally, and I see this all the time, ugly food gets tossed. So a significant portion of food that is wasted is done so simply because grocery stores don't find it aesthetically appealing enough to shelve. And sometimes you'll see some of that, food on the clearance rack. But again, depending on how you're going to use the food, if I'm going to be baking banana bread, what do I care what the bananas look like? The softer the better, because you're going to mash them up anyway.
Yep.
So, think about how you're going to be, if you're going to be making applesauce, if you're going to be putting stuff in a smoothie, it doesn't matter how it looks. You're just going to stick it in a blender and, blend it all up. So just be really cognizant of that. And I think I had never heard of National Stop Food Waste Day. It's never fallen on my show date that I can remember. But, I'm really glad that I did the research on this, because it is definitely a problem. And definitely something that we can all do something about. So if you're guilty of any of those things, and I think probably we all are guilty of at least some of those, just be conscious about trying to change those types of behaviors. It is 7:47. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So again, remember, especially bosses and employers, that today is Administrative Professionals Day. So remember to thank and honor your administrative support staff, your administrative professionals and assistants and receptionists and all those people who do a lot of that behind the scenes stuff. And in their honor, we're going to play Dolly Parton singing 9 to 5, because you can't have an Administrative Professionals Day without listening to this song at some point. It is 7:47. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back shortly.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. Jump in the shower and the blood starts pumping. Out on the streets, the traffic starts jumping with folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5. For service and devotion, you would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me. They let you dream just to watch him shatter. You're just a step on the boss man's ladder, but you got dreams he'll never take away. The same boat with a lot of your friends, waiting for the day your ship will come in and the tide's gonna turn and it's all gonna roll your way. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and you never get the credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life, and you think about
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:51. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So I have been texting back and forth with Joe Rouse, and I explained to Joe. I said, we've been covering this topic of Stop Food Waste Day, and I did ask him next month when he's on, which is generally the fourth Wednesday of the month, when he's feeling well enough to be here. He will go over again, sort of some of those things that you and I talked about, Pete. The labels that we see on food packaging. Best if used by, sell by, or expired, because they all mean different things. And I know Joe has explained it before, but it's one of those things where, we just need to be reminded what does all that mean so that people aren't necessarily throwing out food that really doesn't need to be thrown out. Okay, and, speaking of food, reminds me of two other announcements that I want to make. Yesterday, because it happens on the last Tuesday of the month, we have our Diabetes Dialogue Support and Education Group. That is facilitated by Jennifer Jaffune. Jen is a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and is on this show generally on the third Wednesday of the month with her Food for Thought segment. So Jen was at the Senior Center yesterday, and she has probably about 20 people that have been consistently attending that monthly program and really getting a lot out of it. Jen she's got a PowerPoint, she always has handouts. Yesterday, the topic of discussion, and she's talked about it on this show before, was holiday eating, and this is the time of year when she really gets into that, because of course we think Christmas and New Year's, but as Jen pointed out, you're getting into picnics. Well, yeah, because as Jen said, there are just about maybe like 2 holidays of the whole year, on the U.S. calendar that we don't celebrate with food. Probably like Groundhog Day, and because everything else, it's like, we got Mother's Day coming up. What do? You take mom out to breakfast or dinner. We got Father's Day. We've got Memorial Day. Well, that starts picnic season. We'll have Labor Day. That ends picnic season. We have weddings coming up. We have graduations coming up. And, as Jen said, everything, it's a picnic, it's a party, it's cake and ice cream. So anyway, that was the topic yesterday. She has a different topic each month. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is just to remind people that this is available as a monthly program at the Senior Center. We hold it in the great room. There's plenty of space. The more the merrier. People are free to ask questions, share ideas. I mean, Jen I know she always has some recipes that she's passing out as well. So it's called Diabetes Dialogue. And again, it's offered on the last Tuesday of the month at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, also offered at the Senior Center on the last Tuesday of the month in the morning is Bay State Hearing Aid Service. And Jeff Halls from Bay State Hearing Aids has been coming to the Senior Center to, talk to people about their hearing, and he'll inspect your hearing aid if you have one. He'll replace your hearing aid tubes if you need that done. He'll do an earwax analysis if you need that. That is by appointment only. And the person who is now scheduling those appointments is Evelyn Bristol, our nurse, who is a gift from the Public Health Department, and her office is at the Senior Center. So Evelyn is slowly but surely taking over lots and lots of programs, like the medical equipment loan program, and now the hearing aid program, and soon the foot care program. We'll talk about that next month.
Harry promotes his show, right?
Yes.
Somebody just commented. I got to read this because it's awesome.
Go ahead.
Matthew Jones has commented on Harry's post about promoting a show. Who else can go from belting out Who'll Stop the Rain to discussing a demonstration of fifth-generation air superiority, stealth, and full-spectrum dominance? Can't wait.
I love it. I love it. And that is so perfect. That is so Harry.
That's awesome.
So
That's
Harry.
a great comment on a Harry post.
It is a great comment. It is a great comment. And, you know, those are the times where you love social media, you know, where people come out with stuff that's really creative, but that is really true.
I was like, I just had to read that one.
He is a man of many talents and a man who wears many hats.
Hashtag Renaissance man.
That is our own Harry Rock. All right, couple other things going on at the Senior Center that people wanted me to remind you of. Number one, the Sassy Stitchers Knit and Crochet group meets every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Actually, some of them show up at 8:30. Some stay until 11. Some stay until noon. This is, you know, members of the group work on individual projects. They offer creative ideas and crafting tips to each other. No experience is necessary. If you want to learn how to knit or crochet, especially, we have a lot of crocheters, come on over. They'll teach you how to do it. They are an awesome bunch, a lot of fun, and there's no charge. We supply yarn. They do make things for, that are donated to charity, but they also work on their own projects and kind of everything in between. So new members are always welcome. So join. Also today, Wednesday afternoons, and this was a misprint in the newsletter, in this month's newsletter, so I redid it for the May edition. The chess group used to meet on Monday afternoons. I pulled an older article and I forgot to change it to Wednesdays. They, for several years, have now been meeting on Wednesday afternoons from 1 to 3 o'clock. But if you're in the middle of a chess game and it's 3 o'clock, I don't kick anybody out. They're down at the end of the hall in the Creativity Center. It's a quiet group. Les Hutton is kind of the facilitator and instructor. So we do have people that come and they'll say, oh my gosh, I haven't played chess in 50 years, but I want to take it up again. Or we have people who say, I've never played. I don't know how to start. So we have everything from inexperienced to experienced, everyone in between, and you are welcome to join the chess players. You don't have to sign up. Just come on down to the Senior Center. And you know what? In the summer, it's really nice because it's nice and cool and it's air conditioned, and they really love it. And right now we don't have any women, so we'd love to get some women playing chess with them. I also want to remind you that this month, we're wrapping this up, is on our Channel 15 Westfield, speaking of Harry Rock, because he's the host of Westfield Council on Aging Presents. It's Funeral Planning 101. This was an interview with Jimmy Adams from First and Adams Funeral Services. He was so interesting. I'm working my way through that interview. I listen to it on YouTube when I'm doing my exercises on the weekends. So I just got to the part where they're going to start talking about green burials, which is kind of a newer concept. But one of my seniors had given me information about that several years ago, and I actually went to a training on it. So I'll be anxious to hear that part of it. But Jimmy covers everything. And I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of weeks, Gary and I have already had conversations about some of the things that Jimmy brought up in that interview. So if you have not tuned in, it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Pete is running it in the afternoon at 2:45. It's called Funeral Planning 101. It's also bundled into the YouTube Senior Center bundle. So if you have a computer and you have access to watching it on YouTube, it's about an hour-long interview. But he covers everything from expenses to planning to services and ceremonies, cremation, burial, cemeteries in this area. It is so interesting. It's so fascinating, and I would really encourage you, because guess what, everybody? We're all going to die at some point, so a little planning is really helpful. All right.
That's it. It's 8 o'clock.
That is it, Pete. We have done it. You and I have managed to, kibitz for 2 hours, but hopefully get some good information out to people.
Yeah,
absolutely. Folks, we will be back next week. Have a great one. And next up is Harry Rock.